Hi students, I hope you can hear me and see me okay. Once again, the lighting is not perfect, but as long as you can hear me, that's what matters more than anything. Week four. We're halfway through the course, and you heard other comments earlier in my end of week three summary. But again, your paper, your book report worth 30 points is due next week. So week four in loco parentis, women's colleges and HBCUs, and a bit on student life. I'm going to try in this brief summary to give you some idea of the salient readings. There's a lot of readings, some primary source material, which is quite interesting, and some secondary source material as well. So going right to the readings, I think chapter 6 in our text is particularly good. The external influences on curriculum, social-cultural context. It's about 20 pages, but it's just packed full of really good information. Authors Latuca and Stark are particularly sharp. Talk about the curriculum debates that took place. They looked at the undergraduate education, the liberal arts versus specialized education, the diversity of the learners over the years, the content, the instructional processes, and of course the evaluations or the accountability movements, and also the three major purposes of university education that we've inherited from Western Europe. Teaching, research, and service throughout. So they also fast forward here near the end of the article, point out in the 1990s, 60% of all baccalaureate degrees in science were given in professional occupational fields, and that since World War II, that was the real sea change in the dramatic diversification of the student body in terms of the rise of the community colleges, the adult student population, the rise of remedial education, the huge increase in the number of female students and students from various segments of the population, including African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, and so forth. This together in this one article, it covers from the earliest points of some of the things we inherited from Europe right up into the modern day and what's known as the Learning College, and some of the accreditation issues that we face having to do with the accountability movement, and those of you who work in this field know what that means about the the ability to benefit, the credit hour issue, and so forth, which is very current. Then there's some articles on an early one, 1933, on the Negro College in America. I use that word because that was common then. And it was written by, it's actually a book report by the Journal of Negro Education, and it gives you some idea that this is nothing new. There has been efforts for African Americans to achieve higher education in their own institutions for some time, largely supported by the federal government, northern philanthropies, and southern states. Very good. And also there's another very interesting piece on the rise of HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, of which I believe the members, founding members, I think there were 27 at one time. And the big thing that we hear a lot about in terms of African American history is United Negro College Fund, which was founded in 1944 by Noah Saperson and Frederick Patterson, who was the first president of Tuskegee Institute, which was a major player, as you probably know, in terms of training airmen for the Second World War. And then a very interesting piece that I think many of you will find you may not have been so much aware of is Mary Tyler, who was the first president of Mount Holyoke College, one of the seven sisters, as they were called, a founding member, and the reality is that she does a nice little piece here where she gives a history of that, the rise of women's colleges, and quotes no one less than Charles Eliot, for whom the NEASC gives an annual Charles Eliot Award, who was against coeducation for women. And there's some early research that suggested that those who did go to college, and of course this goes to show you how dated research is, so keep that in mind when you start doing your own dissertation, that there was no benefits. But of course that was only after 5 or 10 years. And then there's sort of a tongue-in-cheek article from the Atlantic 2000, The End of Men, and that's what they'll do in the popular press, as you know. But at the time that was written, it talked about the traveling sisterhood, meaning the graduates of the Seven Sisters colleges, the founding women's colleges, have now taken very prominent leadership positions in the development of the education of women. And this particular article in the Atlantic gives some good data. 60% of master's degrees are held by women, and 50% of law degrees, 50% of medical degrees, and 42% of MBAs. So it's a good, quick history, but again, it's a tongue-in-cheek article, if you don't mind my adding that editorial. And then there's some earlier stuff on the lesser man, on what becomes of college women from the late 19th century. I think you might find interesting. And then fast forwarding here, we go into looking at some materials at Student Life. I thought Stephen Kahn, K-C-A-H-N's piece on the issues of academic ethics talks about, gives a little bit of the history of the in local parenthesis, where at the time of its use, the four key elements were that the colleges had authority over student behavior, authority over punishing behavior for rule violations. They were responsibility for student care, and most importantly, they were exempted from the limits of searches by outside authorities. They were really the parents. But that has since changed, and he's made an interesting comment that I quote earlier when I mentioned in the learning objectives of this week, is that the feeling that in local parenthesis is now over. It doesn't happen anymore. And then finally, there's a couple of other pieces on the role of religion, God and Buckley, no less than William F. Buckley, who was from Yale and really wanted to be sure that the Christian education stayed in part of the major purposes of getting a liberal arts education from Yale, and how that has changed. And actually that was a contrast with someone I'd mentioned earlier, who you know about, John Dewey, who was a more utilitarian, and this is it's a counterpoint, but in a series of what Marsden calls the prologues 1, prologues 2. So a lot of reading material. Again, some of it skims the surface. In the Student Life, you have a link to the early student handbook at one of the universities, which I think is useful. I think there's a video, a short video, Toga Toga, produced by Animal House. I think you'll get a few smiles from that. If any of your parents went to college, or your professors went to college like I did, you could ask them what student life was really like. So finally, this brings us to the discussion board for the week, and it has to do compare and contrast student life using any of these materials that you've been engaged with this week and your own institution, or perhaps the institution you graduated from. So this is, in summary, quick. Well, actually, it's not so quick. It's almost 9 minutes of the readings this week. Okay? Any questions, concerns, please contact me. We're halfway through the course, and good luck with week 4.